to the Unbreakable Survivors Podcast with Tanya Joy, a safe space for abuse survivors, helping our listeners see danger, get support, and find joy. In this podcast, we explore all kinds of abuse, interview survivors, and hear their stories. Survivors of domestic abuse are often unbelieved, unsupported, and underserved, but we're different. In this space, all survivors and advocates are welcome, and we look forward to connecting with you, sharing our stories, and finding joy together. Enjoy the podcast. Welcome, listeners. Thank you for joining me. I'm so excited to share my first podcast with you. First, I want to tell you about something we have going on right now. If you have a loved one who may be in an unhealthy or abusive relationship, we're offering Family and Friends Helping Abuse Victims. This is a 4-week program really for the family or friends of an abuse victim who want close proximity, one-on-one support for improving the situation and are looking for ways to help their loved one thrive in a private space where it's safe to open up. This one-on-one program just became available for $568, and you'll work directly with me, your survivor guide. For anyone interested in working together to improve your situation, I'm really looking forward to meeting you and providing personalized guidance and support and helping you come up with a plan to help your loved one. This is something you definitely want to get into before you start feeling hopeless in your situation. Or if you're already there, it's a priority of ours that we help to resource you so that you can gain a better understanding of the situation and how you can help your loved one. If this is something you might be interested in, the link is in our podcast notes, and you can also find Family and Friends Helping Abuse Victims on our website at unbreakablesurvivors.com. Okay, so let's get into the episode. Today, I'm talking about 5 ways family and friends help survivors. If you have a loved one who is in an unhealthy or abusive relationship and don't know how to help or advocate for them, this episode is for you. Let's jump into the 5 ways to help abuse victims and survivors you know, love, and care about. My number one go-to for family members and friends of someone in an abusive relationship is to take care of your emotional needs and joy first. When you stop the rush to help your loved one and take care of yourself, you'll have more time to be prepared and resourced to help your loved one see your support. What does this look like? This looks like talking to someone who's already been where they are. It looks like receiving guidance and support so you know how to care for yourself and your loved one and protect your heart, your emotions, and your feelings for when you reach out to help. If you're wondering why, the reason is that I don't think addressing an abusive situation, even as a family member and friend of someone who's in an abusive relationship, is something you should go through alone. It can be difficult and emotionally draining, and you deserve support if you find yourself in this situation. It may feel like there aren't resources to support you in this situation, but there are. There are many free resources as well to support you, like helplines, a few of which are listed on the homepage of unbreakablesurvivors.com for you to connect with easily. A second important way to help is to understand what your loved one is going through. What's really difficult about an abusive relationship is that a loved one may be in the middle of a toxic and chaotic or even physically scary situation. They may be so focused on just trying to get through the situation, they can't recognize your help the way you're offering it. The choices they're making may seem irrational and unhealthy to family and friends, but what they need may be patience, understanding, and no anger. Again, if you're in this situation where your loved one is in an adult domestic abuse relationship, once you see that your family, friend, or neighbor, or whoever this individual is that you want to serve, is in a toxic situation that has many facets to it, it may change your approach. It may take some time and support to get to a place of understanding, which is why I always recommend that you do resource yourself in a situation like this. What your loved one is going through is likely very complicated, both for them and you too. The great thing is that once you can gain a high-level understanding of the situation, it may be easier to ground yourself instead of feeling pulled into the chaos. And if you choose to help them, you'll be able to communicate with them with more love while keeping yourself more emotionally safe. I know it may be very confusing because your friend, your family member, your person is the one in an abusive relationship. So you may not have considered before that you may need to protect yourself from their situation too. However, a lot of times, because someone that's in an abusive relationship is struggling to keep themselves safe, they aren't necessarily able to be the best to you either. So understanding the dynamic of what is going on can help you to understand how to reframe things and ultimately be able to have more ease around the situation. When you're in a safe and grounded space, you'll be much more able to resource others. I get that as a family or friend, seeing something is wrong with someone you feel like you want to help seems really straightforward. But if you've experienced pushback that you don't understand, it can be that you might not be seeing the situation clearly. Receiving one-on-one guidance in our program, as an example, goes through how to best interact with your loved one who's in an abusive relationship. And this starts with really becoming clear in your understanding around the types and effects of abuse, so you know how they, your loved one, may be affected by their partner's abuse in ways they themselves may not be clear enough about to tell you. A third way that friends and family help their loved ones in abusive relationships is to not take their words and actions personally. When loved ones are in abusive relationships, they may push family and friends away. They may stop calling as much or showing up to family gatherings. How can you not take this personally? It can be really hard to just do that, just stop taking things personally, because it can feel hurtful to not feel connected to someone you usually were close to, or it can feel uncomfortable to see someone you're used to seeing joyful not be that way. But usually in these situations, and let's be clear, we're talking about adult domestic abuse relationship situations. In these situations, your loved one's partner may be isolating your loved one from you, and not only you, likely many other people. For example, what I'm saying is that the distance between you and your loved one right now, it may not be what your loved one is doing with intention, so that you feel bad or even so they disconnect from you. Instead, they may feel the need to follow the partner's lead in order to keep the peace. Or they may even be pushing you away to protect you or themselves from you seeing what's going on through your own eyes. They may not be ready to leave. They may be having trouble processing the situation. And they may not feel like anyone can help them. While I can't speak for your loved one, I can speak of what I've seen and the commonalities I know of among abuse victim survivors in adult abusive relationships. So if you don't want to hold a grudge, what do? Having compassion and grace for your loved one during this time can go a long way. But you first do need to take care of yourself enough and have enough of a full cup to be there for them. When you do, it can make all the difference, considering the effects of what the circumstances can have on both of you. We just want to make sure that everyone stays emotionally safe here. A fourth way to help is to not give up on your loved one. Friends and family may feel hopeless that there's nothing they can do to help because their loved one won't take their help. Maybe they've tried to help them in the past, but then they go back to their abusive relationship. How many chances should you give them? Why should you try again to help your loved one if they went back to their abusive partner after the last time you supported or talked to them? I believe there is still hope for your loved one, and truly, they may really benefit from you believing in them. However, before you dive into the situation, you may need to learn healthy boundaries between yourself and your loved one so that you can know how to better support them in a manner that does not take or drain too much of your energy, even if they return to their abuser again and again. Your ability to believe in your loved one can really help them, even to the point of empowering them to start seeing things differently and start to navigate out of their loved one's abuse and turn their situation around. Even so, it's not easy to continue to help in ways that drain you financially, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and so on. And that's not what I'm recommending here. It's important to instill boundaries for how you're willing to help so that you can continue to believe in them, even if all that means is a conversation on the phone every once in a while. The pressure to put in undue effort for someone else can definitely be too much to bear sometimes. And your belief in them alone is one of the most helpful things that you can provide. I know it can be hard to believe sometimes, but the more that you fill yourself up, the easier it can be. A fifth way to help your loved one is to know how to treat them and how to interact with them once they leave their abusive relationship. It can be typical for family members and friends of abuse victims to want to know everything that happened during their loved one's toxic relationship, or want to make decisions for their loved one so they stay on a good, healthy path. I understand if that's been your experience. However, because your loved one may have experienced a lot of trauma, they may have needs that you may not be aware of or do not know how to meet. They may need space and time until they're ready to open up to you. If you need support or are feeling lost due to your lack of connection to an abuse survivor, support and guidance from experts who have already been where they are can help. They can help you understand why this may be. You know, I believe that after an abusive adult domestic relationship has ended, it's not only helpful to reconnect with your loved one who experienced the abuse to help them recover, it is just as important to reconnect with yourself and give yourself some time to recover from the effects the relationship had on you too. While the abuse survivor is recovering from their experiences in the abusive relationship, you likely are also recovering from that same period of time of both of your lives and the effects it had on your life. It's important to recognize that possibility and remember how valuable it is to take time to heal and empathize with yourself if and when you need it, just as much as it may be for someone you love to as well. If you want to learn how to do all this, check out the offer on our website or in the podcast notes below for our Friends and Family Helping Abuse Victims one-on-one 4-week program. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We have more episodes and content to come. Don't forget to share, follow, rate, and review our podcast. It would really mean a lot to us. We'll connect with you in the next episode. If you want to learn more about all types of abuse, you can go to our website to download our free Red Flags for All Types of Partner Abuse PDF. Make it a great day. I'm out. Till next time. The information on this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. The information and services provided on this podcast are based on the education, experience, and research explored by Unbreakable survivors and does not constitute the practice of therapy, diagnosis, or other professional healthcare, mental health, or legal services. This podcast host is not a licensed psychologist or healthcare professional and does not diagnose or offer mental health treatments. Unbreakable Survivor services are not a substitute for professional healthcare.